My name is Shirley Foster. My son is Alex Foster. He's 28 years old now. He was a late talker. I have a daughter that is 17 months older than him, and she was an early talker. I just figured that's what kids did. She was 6 months old and she would say, Dad. And so being so close in age kind of was a good comparison for me to see that something wasn't quite right, but that he wasn't talking the way he should be when he was hitting milestones, 15 months, a year, 2 years, just not seeming to grasp language. At the time, I didn't want to even think about anything other than he's just going to get speech therapy and just start talking. I didn't want to think there was any other neurological issue going on. I couldn't get past that at first. His frenum, the skin under your tongue, was attached to what they call tongue tie. And I thought, okay, that must be what it is. I took him to the doctor, and the doctor said, we can clip it, but the worst he would have with that is not be able to lick an ice cream cone. And I said, well, I want him to lick an ice cream cone. It's very easy to, and they did that. And I thought that was going to unleash a Pandora's box of language. And it didn't. And they thought he might have hearing problems. He wasn't listening. He could hear, but he wasn't listening. The audiologist there gave him hearing aids, which when you think about, everything must have made him crazy because it just amplified everything. For a year, he wore these hearing aids. He hated them. He would throw them away, throw them out. He would hide them. He was 2 years old. He hid them in my shoes in my closet one time. I couldn't find them. I was in the car. He was in the back seat waiting for a train, as they tend to be in Mississippi at a train track. And the window was open and he threw them out the window. And these things are expensive. He just did not want to wear them. They were amplifying everything. And I think at the time I thought, okay, I can deal with hearing impaired. I started reading all of this about hearing impaired. But then we took him back to the audiologist and his tests were okay after a year. And so if it's not hearing, then what is it? So we were kind of eliminating things along the way. People are pretty quick when they're young to want to slap a label on them, schools in particular. I was anti-label. I was sort of, I don't want him to be thrown into a category of being labeled early on and that be his label for the rest of his life. He needed to get the education that he needed based on his needs. But when a child can't talk or they can't express to you what they are thinking, you can't pass any tests, or you can't really get a good gauge on their IQ or what's going on. And then when we started off in preschool, getting him closer to kindergarten, the public schools did a test on him and he couldn't answer the questions. They were saying things like, okay, if you have 3 birds in a tree and 2 fly out, how many do you have left? And it was just very complex for somebody that had like 0 language. But I knew that there was something else in there. That mommy thing going on. I had to kind of get out of my denial and get into the reality of what we need to do, where he needs to be placed. Your child is this gift that you have, and you just have to. It's hard to accept everything. You know, you're thinking 10 years from now and 20 years from now, what's it going to be like? Where is he going to be? You have to start with today. Let's work with what we have today. Get whatever therapy you can get, whatever's recommended to you, and work from today on to get to tomorrow. I guess I had to stop looking at, oh my gosh, in 2 years. Well, if you do what you need to do today, 2 years will come and it'll show you what you need. I had to kind of get over planning. So you're making plans for the future, and I had to just sort of deal with the present and deal with what I had, good or bad, all of the things, and really be realistic about it and not be in denial, which is easy for a parent to be. You can know in your gut something's not right, but you can in reality not want to face that. And that's hard. That's really, really hard. I think that was the hardest thing for me. The misconception that they're in one category when they're late talking is a misconception. I mean, there's just so many different things going on, and you have to pin it down for that individual, what they need. It became to more of what they needed than what they don't need. they really focus on their strengths. He really grasped onto a foreign language, which surprised me for someone that didn't seem to grasp the English language or language in general, but it made sense. He had a teacher that only had 2 students in the class. That probably helped a lot too. Took him to the zoo and everything had to be in Spanish. So they would point to the elephant and they would say the name in Spanish. It was very visual. He's a visual learner for sure. You can't just put a piece of paper down. It's very visual. And, bus, car, whatever it is in Spanish, the object became a name. And he picked it up like that. He picked up Spanish and could speak with it. It was incredible to me. And math, very, very good at math. He was in a program at George Mason University. It's a 4-year program for late talkers or different people under the spectrum, under the autism spectrum as well. And he graduated from that program and he works in Washington, D.C. for the International Trade Commission. I remember thinking, I want to be 15 years down the road where I can say, oh, I remember those days. I remember thinking that, where I could sit back and say, oh, yeah, I remember when I was going through all of this. And so here I am. I never thought there were some things I would forget. And it's amazing. Like you were saying, well, what were his first words? And I thought some things I would never forget, but you do. I've moved to a place where, I guess it's good because I don't dwell on the bad parts, which I guess they were at the time, but I guess in the scope of everything, it worked out. Just know that there are a lot of resources and there's more of an awareness now than there was even back when we started. They seem to be identifying more children that have these issues and they're able to get on it early. And the best thing to do is that and take advantage of the whatever resources you have. Take advantage of them and get your child involved with whatever through the public schools. Don't let them just throw your kid in a special ed class and label them. Don't let them do that. In his programs, I try to get involved with other parents and reach out and try to get our children together so that the other parents could talk. And then I felt not as alone. But it is what it is. I mean, you love your child no matter what. And it might be a little bit of a different path getting down the road, but eventually it kind of just all meshes out. It does. It really does. But get on it early.